Hello, I'm David Achey, and this is my third and final video on leading change, this time on the book Switch. And the framework is the elephant, the rider, and the path. And when we want to lead change, we have the emotion side of ourselves, which is the elephant, the rational side, which is the rider, and we want to shape the path. And so to affect change in an organization, in ourselves, and others, that there needs to be a change of behavior in one of these three things. And the metaphor in using the elephant is spot on, because if you look at the size of these beautiful animals, it's just like our emotions. They're big, they're powerful, they're slow to persuade, but once you get them moving and you get them all together, they're very powerful, and the rider is very weak. And so as I was reading this book, there was no doubt that my mind kept coming back to my previous 50 years in the ski industry and teaching skiing for the past 35 or too many years that I want to remember. And I look at the wonderful, fantastic journey that it has been. I kept coming back and relating the principles in this book into skiing and teaching skiing and where we want to go, and how did I move from teaching skiing into management and organizations and startup. And the places that I've been, I've always had to facilitate change, usually because it had a financial weakness, or it needed to be restructured, remotivated, some sort of change. And so we look at our emotions and our rational side, which some could say that's our left side of the brain, and our emotions is the right side of our brain. But as we come back and look at the book and thinking, how do we want to make change, there was no doubt that I wanted to come back and look at skiing and teaching skiing. And friends of mine, and I did ask, I said, do you mind being in this famous movie that I'm making? And they all jumped at the chance. But the earlier pictures, we saw skiing in the powder, and how we shape the path, and how, depending on the exercise or what we want to do, or the type of the terrain and the environment that we are, that's like shaping the path. If somebody wanted to learn how to ski powder, I wouldn't take a beginner and put them right on steep terrain. I would gradually build up to this. And as we're at these skiers over at North Star, and actually these are instructors that are working their way towards certification process and some sort of exercise that I had in the archives of the file, but they're constantly working on the technique and working and changing the path. How we tweak the environment, that will depend on the change that's going to be made. With teaching skiing with beginners, we start on small, very gradual, flat terrain, and we slowly progress our way towards steeper terrain, which takes years, and for many skiers never occurs. They're very content on nice shallow terrain, and part of skiing is being out, enjoying the environment, the beauty, the scenery. So skiing is a lifelong sport, and very much like the book and where we want to switch or lead change, that we definitely have our analytical side, our rider, in making decisions, and we may have a bunch of information, and we may be looking at a problem or a situation, and we can get bogged down into this analysis paralysis, which is actually a term used in the book as well as a term in skiing, and being careful not to get too technical with our audience and the people that we're skiing with. But instead, we want to direct the rider by following the bright spots and building off of the positive, and looking at the terrain and looking at what the student and the person is doing and trying to bring out the best. And Switch with Chip and Dan Heath, they talk about the growth mindset, and our previous video was all about the growth and fixed mindset. And part of leading change is keeping people into this growth mindset where we're constantly growing and learning. And that's what skiing is about. It's a lifelong journey, and so is our life is a lifelong journey, no pun intended, but we're constantly faced with change, and changing in ourselves, changing in organization, in our family members or somebody else, and how do we go ahead and want to facilitate that change? The emotion side of us, like the elephant, is going to most likely win. So we need to be able to find that feeling, find that passion, be able to looking at these turns right here. Nice day, nice terrain, making some nice round turns, yes. And we build off of that. We're not going to take somebody that's making this type of turn and drop them off, the steep chutes that you see, many times on TV or watching an extreme skier. It's a gradual step. It's making one step at a time, small little step, just like change. And just from this book, that we're making these small incremental steps to move forward. And so when we want to direct the rider, we want to follow the bright spots. We want to script critical moves, and we want to point to the destination. They know where they want to go. They're out there skiing. They see other skiers. They look at the big mountain and see the different chair lifts and the different access to terrain, and they'll have different desires on where to want to go. And they'll have the emotion. They'll have the passion. That's why they're out there. And so much in our business world or ourselves or the organization that we want to constantly facilitate this change by finding the emotions. What motivates that elephant? What gets that elephant moving in the direction that we want to go? And so when we can direct the rider, we can motivate the elephant, and we can shape the path, then, as my wife is shown here, she's happy, she's got a beautiful day, the background of alpine meadows. And then for myself and taking other teams, we're at Grand Targhee, and we're looking at all of a sudden cat skiing and up in the mountains in the powder. We're not going to take somebody from the general terrain and put them right into this mountainous experience, but it's these gradual steps that we make along the way. We build the habits. We're shaping the path towards success. And so much of organization and change really does come down to these three framework, as Dan and Chip Heath were discussing in the book Switch. It's the elephant, it's the rider, it's shaping the path. Chip and Dan Heath do a fantastic job at using the elephant, the rider, and shaping the path as far as how we view and look at making change. And so I know for myself, as I move on to the future endeavors and looking at challenges, and if I want to make a change in myself or someone else or the organization or the group of people that I'm working with, and how do we influence behavior, and looking at the emotions, looking at the rational side, and how do we create the situation, how do we shape the path so as we move forward we can influence change and make a difference in the world, one step at a time. Thank you.